Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. I was really tired after doing that Ormandy box of 120 CDs in a 90-minute video. So for this video, I just want to relax. And what do we do when we relax? Well, we play music. What do we do when we're not relaxing? What do I do when I'm not relaxing? Well, I listen and play music. Well, I guess I really need to get a life, don't I? I'm kind of a one note, I suppose, if you want to talk musically. Well, never mind. Today I want to talk to you about inappropriate music. That is the last thing you want to hear when people select music for specific occasions. And this is actually based on a true life experience I had when I was in college. I had a buddy, his name was Bill. He was a child prodigy. He had his master's from Juilliard when he was like 11. He played every instrument, including the piano and the organ. And he was extremely devoutly Catholic, just a lovely person from a lovely family. And at one point, he was asked to play the organ at Mass at the Church of St. Philip and James, which was the sort of university church, the Catholic Church on Charles Street in Maryland for Johns Hopkins University, which is where I was an undergraduate. And I was very excited to come and hear him play. So I planned to attend Mass with him along with a bunch of our friends. He was agonizing over what to play as a recessional. He needed some music to play as a recessional. He didn't want to do the same old stuff. And just coincidentally, I had the sheet music for the organ solo at the conclusion of Janacek's Glagolitic Mass. Now, if you know Janacek's Glagolitic Mass, you know that is one wild organ solo at the end. It really is. And I was so fascinated by it because it's just crazy and exciting as all hell. And I thought, well, I wanted to see how he did it. I wanted to see what the rhythm was because it seemed to be so complex. It's actually quite simple. But it sounds very complex. It's very cleverly written. It's just like a basically 3/4, but you'd never know it to listen to it. It's really quite a remarkable piece. And I gave it to him, and he was as fascinated with it as I was. I mean, in those days, I couldn't afford to get like scores. I didn't have the score to the Glagolitic Mass, but the organ solo was cheap. It was only like 3 pages long. So I thought, well, I said to him, let's do this. Do your recessional. Use this piece. No one ever plays it. It's completely original. You'll have a good time doing it. So he tried it out and he loved it. And he played the Mass with all the normal stuff. And then at the end, as everybody was filing out the door, in came, the organ solo from the Glagolitic Mass, which I'm going to play for you right now. The whole thing. It's only a couple minutes long. Here it is. hot stuff, isn't it? Actually, that was the Anthony Vitt recording on Naxos. Really just a superb piece of organ music. And it's actually written for a setting of the Mass. Granted, a concert setting. I mean, Janacek was an atheist, but he wasn't too concerned with liturgical propriety. And sure enough, after my friend Bill played this in church, the priest walked up to him as we were leaving and said, I asked you to find a piece that would shepherd them out of the building, not scare them away permanently. And then I realized that there was such a thing as appropriate and inappropriate music, even if the music might be designed for the purpose for which it was used. So I'm not even concerned with music that's designed for the purpose for which it's being used. I just want to have a good time. And so I have a couple of pieces here I love anyway, And so I'm going to imagine some occasions where they would be most inappropriate. And the first occasion, the one where appropriate music matters most of all, I would say is a funeral. Now, we can all think of pieces that would be inappropriate to play at funerals, I'm sure, but I have got what I think is the ultimate inappropriate funeral piece. And let's lay the scene. Everybody's sitting in the chapel, and the deceased has specifically asked that certain music be used to accompany the memorial service, particularly after the eulogy, when everyone is at their most solemn or their most sanctimonious, depending on who the crowd is and who the person was. And this is what you hear. Yes, that is Ibert's Divertissement. Jacques Ibert. That is the zaniest piece of music probably in the entire basic repertoire. I mean, you can come up, the comedian's gallop. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you could play. Saber dance, at a funeral. But this piece takes insane frivolity and elevates it to a sublime artistic principle. I really believe that. I just think it's hilarious. And I just keep thinking to myself, boy, that would be just terrific at a funeral. Who knows? Maybe we can use it at mine. I would have a big laugh. I mean, but other people, well, maybe they would be laughing too. One can only hope. So, and finally, just last but certainly not least, I have actually been asked by many, many people to do wedding processionals. I've done this. I talked to you about one of them, in fact, the first of Respighi's Ancient Airs and Dances, which makes an absolutely fabulous wedding processional. It really does. And what do you want at a wedding processional? Ideally, you really want two somewhat related pieces of music because you start with all of the forerunners of the bride, right? Everyone comes in and lines up, and the flower girls come and they throw junk all over the place. And, depending on how big and elaborate it's going to be. If you're the Prince and Princess of Wales, you need something a little longer and a little bit more elaborate. But for normal people, just a sort of bifurcated piece. And then once that initial processional thing, stops, is done, and everybody's lined up and they're standing at the front, the bride comes in. And so then you usually switch to Entry of the Bride. And I just found a piece. Every time I heard it, I kept thinking to myself, this is a very, very sick piece, but perfect for a wedding, because you have an initial march and then it stops for a brief second, and then blam, out comes the bride. This is going to be some bride. And here it is, my ultimate, world's most inappropriate wedding processional. Get ready, folks. Here we go. Yes, that's the march in the first movement of Shostakovich's Babi Yar Symphony. Music of unmitigated menace and horror, but it does exactly what a wedding processional is supposed to do. You have the introductory march, then you have the stop thing, and then the bride, who I think must be like the bride of Godzilla, comes in, and you even have a bell. There's even a bell chiming in the background. It's absolutely perfect. I'm not quite sure what wedding it would be, but a wedding processional, it certainly could be. And those are just 3 examples. We may do more. If you have some ideas of singularly inappropriate music, and I don't mean, let's get this straight. I don't mean it's just inappropriate because it's like loud and ugly, or, it's atonal and it's a children's thing. Yeah, I don't mean the cheap way out. I mean a piece of music that really fits the circumstance for which you plan on using it in the worst possible way. That is, it has to be musically right, but expressively oh so wrong. If you've got some ideas, stick them in there. If I like them, maybe I'll use them and we'll do another one of these. They're fun. They're just fun. It's always good to come up with reasons to listen to things that we might not know, or that we might not have thought about, or that gives us some slant, an angle that presents them in a new and an entertaining light. And that's my suggestion for inappropriate music. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.